story. Elias Thorne sat in his office, reviewing the architectural plans for his landmark downtown project when his phone vibrated. Another missed call from Vivian. Third one today, all during times she knew he'd be in meetings. He picked up his phone, opened their message thread, and typed, "In meetings. What's needed?" The response came quickly. "The charity gala planning is running late. Don't wait up." Elias placed the phone face down on his desk. The fourth time this week. He pulled up his calendar. The charity gala wasn't scheduled for another 3 months. His fingers drummed against the polished surface of his desk as he accessed his private email account. The response from Mrs. Davies landed in his inbox precisely at 4 p.m., as promised. Her reputation for discretion and thoroughness had preceded her, and now he understood why. The preliminary report was comprehensive yet subtle: credit card statements, timestamps, locations, all presented without judgment or speculation. "Mr. Thorne?" His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Finch is here to see you. Send him in." Arthur Finch entered, his usual casual demeanor replaced with concern. "You look like hell, Elias." "Sit down, Arthur." Elias turned his monitor around. "Take a look at this." Arthur's eyes scanned the report, his expression darkening. "High-end restaurants, hotel charges? These aren't charity expenses." "No," Elias confirmed, his voice steady. "They're not." "How long have you suspected?" 2 months. The signs were there. Changed passwords, private phone calls, working late. Elias pulled up another document. "But that's not all. Look at these building permit delays." Arthur leaned forward, studying the screen. "These are for your downtown project. Every single permit has been delayed or rejected on technicalities." "I did some digging." Elias brought up another window. "Every rejection traces back to offices with connections to Sterling Development." "Damien Sterling?" Arthur's eyebrows shot up. "The real estate mogul? The same one who's been making aggressive offers to buy out my company." Elias stood, walking to his office bar. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Arthur. "I need your help." "Name it." "I need you to run a check on Vivian's phone communications. Encrypted channels, deleted messages, anything unusual." Arthur took a sip of his whiskey. "That's not exactly legal, Elias." "Neither is corporate sabotage." Elias's voice carried an edge that made Arthur look up sharply. "I built this company from nothing, Arthur. 15 years of work, of sacrifice. I won't let anyone take it from me." "Give me 24 hours, Arthur said after a moment. "I'll need remote access to her devices." "You'll have it." Elias returned to his desk, opened a drawer, and removed a small USB drive. "Her laptop backup data. She leaves her devices charging every night in her study." Arthur pocketed the drive. "Elias, if this goes where I think it's going, there's no turning back. I passed the point of no return when I hired Mrs. Davies." Elias's expression remained neutral, but his eyes held a cold determination. "I just need proof." After Arthur left, Elias remained in his office, reviewing Mrs. Davies' report again. His phone buzzed with another message from Vivian. "Don't forget we have dinner with the Robertsons tomorrow." He started to type, "I remember," but deleted it. Instead, he wrote, "Need to cancel. Emergency meeting with investors." He waited for her response, which came almost too quickly. "That's fine. I'll go alone." Elias checked the time, 7:30 p.m. He pulled up the building's security camera feeds on his computer. Vivian's car was still in the parking garage of her charity organization's office building. He switched to the lobby camera. No sign of her. His phone rang. "Mrs. Davies." "Mr. Thorne." Her voice was professional, detached. "I have additional information you might find relevant." "Are you alone?"
Yes.
"I've emailed you a secured file. The password is the date you provided during our first meeting." Elias opened his email, downloaded the file, and entered the password. Photos appeared on his screen: Vivian entering a private dining room at the Ashton Hotel, followed 30 minutes later by Damien Sterling. The timestamp showed 2 p.m., during a time she claimed to be at a donor meeting. "There's more," Mrs. Davies continued. "Mr. Sterling has been making regular visits to your wife's charity organization. Always after hours, always when most staff has left." "How long?" The pattern suggests at least 3 months, possibly longer. Elias's hand tightened around his phone. Continue surveillance. I want everything. Understood, Mr. Thorne. A pause. There's one more thing. During my investigation, I uncovered some interesting financial transactions. Large sums moving through your wife's charity, ultimately ending up in offshore accounts. Send me the details. After ending the call, Elias poured another whiskey. His computer pinged with an incoming email from Richard Holden, his former business partner. Another acquisition offer from Sterling Development, this time with Holden's endorsement attached. Meanwhile, across town, Rick Holden sat across from Damian Sterling in a private club, watching the older man swirl his brandy. He'll never sell, Rick said, placing the acquisition papers on the table. You don't know Elias like I do. He's stubborn. Damian's smile didn't reach his eyes. Every man has his breaking point, Richard. We just need to find his. The permit delays are costing him millions. His investors are getting nervous. Good. Damian leaned forward. Keep pushing. When I'm done, he'll be begging to sell. And don't worry about your position. Once I acquire his company, you'll have your partnership back. With better terms. Rick shifted uncomfortably. And Vivian? She's his wife, Damian. If he finds out, Vivian knows her role. Damian's voice hardened. She's been very cooperative in helping us understand her husband's weaknesses. Besides, she's ready to move on to bigger things. He smiled. With me. As Rick left the club, his stomach churned. He'd known Elias for years, had been his friend before business drove them apart. But business was business, wasn't it? Still, something about Damian's confidence unsettled him. He'd seen that look before, in developers who destroyed lives building their empires. Back in his office, Elias received an alert from Arthur. The encrypted communication scan was complete. He opened the secure link and began reading. His expression remained unchanged as he scrolled through dozens of messages between Vivian and Damian, each one more damning than the last. One message caught his eye. From Damian to Vivian. Once this is done, he'll have nothing. No company, no reputation, no future. Just like he deserves. You've been perfect, darling. Playing the dutiful wife while helping me destroy him. Elias closed the file and opened his company's financial records. He began making calls, to his accountant, to his offshore bankers, to Mr. Harrison, his longtime lawyer. Each call was brief, precise, laying the groundwork for what was to come. When Vivian came home that night, she found him in his study, working. You're still up, she said, leaning against the doorframe. I thought you'd be asleep. Work never ends, he replied, not looking up from his computer. How was the gala planning? Exhausting. So many details to manage. She moved behind him, placed her hands on his shoulders. You work too hard, darling. You should learn to delegate more. Elias allowed himself a small smile, one she couldn't see. Perhaps you're right. In fact, I've been thinking about making some changes. Oh. Her hands stilled for a moment. Yes. Big changes. He finally turned to look at her. But all in good time. After she left, Elias opened his safe and removed a recorder. He'd planted it in her car 3 weeks ago, after the first suspicious credit card statement. He plugged in his headphones and began to listen. The recording was crystal clear. Vivian's voice, followed by Damian's. Your worthless husband is a spineless worm, too weak to even stand up for himself. Damian's voice dripped with contempt. I'll crush his pathetic existence into nothing. I've already set the trap. He'll be begging in the streets like the dog he is. Vivian's laugh echoed through the headphones. Just make sure I'm taken care of when this is over. I've played my part perfectly. Everything we discussed will be yours, darling. The houses, the lifestyle, all of it. And you'll never have to pretend to love that pathetic architect again. Elias removed the headphones, his expression unchanged. He reached for his phone and sent a text to Arthur. It's time. Implement Protocol Phoenix. The response came immediately. Are you sure? Once we start. I'm sure. They want to destroy me? Let's show them what destruction really looks like. The next morning, Elias arrived at his office earlier than usual. He'd spent the night reviewing every piece of evidence, every recording, every financial statement. Mrs. Davies had outdone herself. The surveillance was comprehensive, damning, and most importantly, admissible in court if needed. His phone buzzed. "Arthur, I've finished analyzing those encrypted communications," Arthur said without preamble. "It's worse than we thought. Sterling's been planning this for months. He's been buying up your company's shares through shell corporations, positioning for a hostile takeover. How close is he? With the current market pressure and the project delays, he's within striking distance. Your stock price has dropped 15% in the last month alone." Elias opened his trading platform. "Send me the Shell Corporation details." "All of them. Already done. Check your secure email." A pause. "Elias, there's something else. I found communications between Sterling and Rick Holden going back 6 months. Rick's been feeding him information about your company's vulnerabilities." "Interesting." Elias's voice remained calm. "And how's Rick being compensated for his betrayal?" "Promise of a partnership in Sterling development." "But—" Arthur hesitated. "The communications suggest Sterling's playing him. There's no actual partnership agreement, just vague promises. Keep monitoring their communications. I want to know the moment either of them makes a move." After ending the call, Elias opened his email. Mrs. Davies had sent another update. He downloaded the file and began reviewing the latest surveillance photos and recordings. One particular conversation caught his attention. It was Vivian and Damien, recorded at their regular hotel meeting spot. "Everything's proceeding according to plan." Damien's voice was smug. "The permit delays are bleeding him dry. His investors are panicking. Soon, they'll force him to sell." "And the offshore accounts?" Vivian asked. "All set up. Once we trigger the default clause in his loans, everything transfers automatically. He'll never trace it." "What about his friend Arthur?" "He's too loyal, too capable. He might cause problems." "Already handled. I've arranged for some evidence of corporate espionage to be found on Arthur's servers. When the time comes, he'll be too busy defending himself to help your soon-to-be ex-husband." Elias's jaw tightened. Targeting him was one thing. Targeting Arthur was another. He picked up his phone and dialed Mr. Harrison. "Harrison speaking. It's Elias. I need you to prepare those documents we discussed. All of them. And I need them ready by end of day." "All of them?" Harrison's voice held a note of concern. "Elias, that's nearly $1 billion in assets we're talking about. The transfers alone will be done through the channels we established last month. I want everything moved before Sterling can trigger his trap." "What about the company shares?" "Prepare the paperwork for a complete divestment. Make it look like I'm liquidating out of desperation." "And the money?" "Route it through the Cayman accounts, then to the shell corporations we set up. Make sure everything is untraceable." After ending the call, Elias reviewed his calendar. He had a board meeting in an hour, a meeting where he knew several Sterling-influenced board members would be pushing for his resignation. He smiled. Let them push. Everything was already in motion. His phone buzzed with a text from Vivian. "Lunch today?" He replied, "Can't. Emergency board meeting." Her response came quickly. "Everything okay?" "Just business." "Don't worry." He could almost see her triumphant smile as she read his message, thinking his world was crumbling exactly as planned. Let her think that. Let them all think that. The board meeting went exactly as expected. 3 hours of thinly veiled accusations, concerns about project delays, and suggestions that perhaps new leadership was needed. Elias sat through it all with calm detachment, occasionally checking his phone as if distracted by mounting problems. Mr. Thorne, Gerald Matthews, one of Sterling's plants on the board, spoke up. Given the current situation, perhaps it's time to consider Sterling Development's offer. Their latest proposal is under review by our legal team, Elias cut in smoothly, as are the suspicious patterns of permit delays that seem to coincide with their acquisition attempts. That silenced Matthews, but Elias could see the smirks on several board members' faces. They thought they had him cornered. They thought he was desperately trying to buy time. After the meeting, Elias returned to his office to find Arthur waiting. "How bad was it?" Arthur asked. "Exactly as expected." Elias sat down at his desk. Sterling's people pushed for acceptance of his offer, suggested new leadership might be needed, Bastards. Arthur leaned forward. I've finished the financial traces. Sterling's been busy. He's leveraged nearly everything he has to position for this takeover. If he succeeds, he'll triple his net worth overnight. And if he fails, he'll be exposed. The leverage he's using, the methods, none of it will hold up to serious scrutiny. Elias nodded. Have you secured your systems against his planned corporate espionage attack? Arthur's eyes widened. How did you? Mrs. Davies is very thorough. Elias played him the recording of Damien and Vivian discussing the plan. I'll take care of it, Arthur said grimly. They won't find anything to use against me. But Elias, what they're planning, this isn't just business anymore. This is personal. It became personal the moment they decided to use my wife against me. Elias's voice held no emotion. How long until the overseas accounts are ready? 24 hours. Everything's set up under multiple layers of shell corporations. Even if they somehow trace one, they'll never find the others. Good. Because tomorrow we begin. Elias stood and walked to his window, looking out over the city. They think they're destroying me? They have no idea what destruction looks like. Not yet. The summer evening found Elias in Arthur's private office, a converted warehouse space filled with servers and monitoring equipment. Multiple screens displayed financial data, surveillance feeds, and communication logs. Arthur sat at his main workstation, fingers flying over his keyboard. Look at this, Arthur said, pulling up a complex diagram. Sterling's network of shell companies, each one designed to hide his illegal activities. Tax evasion, market manipulation, bribes to city officials. It's all here. Elias studied the diagram. Can you trace the money? Better. Arthur opened another window. I can prove he's been using these companies to manipulate stock prices. Not just yours, dozens of companies. He's been running this scheme for years. Send everything to Mr. Harrison. He'll know which regulatory agencies need to see what and when. Already done. Arthur turned to face his friend. I've also found something interesting about Beatrice Sterling, Damien's sister. She's been quietly investigating him for months, looking into the same shell companies we found. She's gathered substantial evidence of his illegal activities. Where is she now? Elias asked, his interest piqued. London. She's been meeting with financial investigators there. Arthur pulled up another screen. She's careful, but I managed to access her private communications. She's building a case against him. Set up a meeting. Already done. Arthur handed him a piece of paper. She'll be at the Criterion tomorrow at 2 p.m. Private dining room under the name Bishop. Elias pocketed the paper. What else have you found? You're not going to like this. Arthur brought up a series of email exchanges. Vivian's been busy. She's been transferring funds from her charity to private accounts. Small amounts, nothing suspicious at first glance, but over the past year. He highlighted a total. $3 million, Elias read. All donated by Sterling Development's subsidiaries. Money laundering, Arthur confirmed. The charity's legitimate, but they're using it to clean Sterling's dirty money. And Vivian's getting a cut. Elias's expression remained unchanged, but his eyes hardened. Transfer protocols? Arthur nodded, understanding the real question. He opened a secure terminal. I've set up everything as you requested. Multiple shell companies, spread across different jurisdictions. Each one legitimate on paper, with complete documentation and history. Show me. For the next hour, they went through the complex network Arthur had created. Companies in Dubai, Singapore, the Cayman Islands, each one a perfectly crafted facade, ready to receive and hide Elias's assets. The beauty of it, Arthur explained, is that even if they trace one, they'll never find the connections to the others. Each transfer will appear completely legitimate. By the time they realize what's happening, your assets will be secure and untraceable. In the new identities, Arthur handed him a USB drive. Everything you need. Bank accounts, documentation, passports, all top quality. You'll need to start moving funds soon, though. Small amounts at first, nothing to trigger any alarms. Already started, Elias confirmed. Mr. Harrison's been helping liquidate my public assets. As far as anyone can tell, I'm a desperate man selling everything to keep my company afloat. Speaking of which, Arthur brought up another screen. You should see this. It was security footage from Sterling Development's offices. The timestamp showed earlier that day. Rick Holden was there, meeting with Damian Sterling. I've tapped their security system, Arthur explained, activating the audio. The board meeting went perfectly, Rick was saying. Elias is cornered. A few more weeks of pressure, and he'll have no choice but to sell. Excellent. Damian's voice oozed satisfaction. And you're sure he doesn't suspect anything? Please. Rick laughed. Elias is brilliant with buildings, but he's naive when it comes to business. He still thinks we're friends. He has no idea I'm the one who suggested using his wife against him. Elias watched the exchange without expression. Interesting. Rick's involved deeper than we thought. There's more. Arthur fast-forwarded the footage. Watch this. The scene changed to show Rick leaving Damian's office. In the parking garage, he met someone Vivian. Well? She asked, stepping close to Rick. Everything's going according to plan. Rick pulled her into an embrace. Soon, Damian will destroy Elias and then we'll destroy Damian, Vivian finished, kissing him. He's as naive as my husband, thinking I'd actually stay with him after all this is done. Elias turned away from the screen. Make copies of everything. Every conversation, every meeting, every transfer. I want it all documented. Already done. Arthur hesitated. Elias, what they're planning, this is more than just a hostile takeover. They want to destroy you completely. I know. Elias's voice was calm, controlled. And they'll learn that was their fatal mistake. Not the betrayal, not the theft, not even the affair. Their mistake was thinking I would break. He turned back to his friend. They want to play games? Fine. Let's show them what a real game looks like. What's our next move? Continue monitoring everything. I want to know every meeting, every call, every transaction. Meanwhile, I'll meet with Beatrice Sterling tomorrow. Having his sister as an ally could prove useful. After leaving Arthur's office, Elias drove home, his mind working through the complexities of his plan. The pieces were falling into place. His assets were being quietly moved, his trap was being set, and his enemies were confident in their victory. Let them think him weak. Let them believe him defeated. They would learn, all of them, Damian, Vivian, Rick. What happened when you underestimated Elias Thorne? This wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice, served cold and calculated. His phone buzzed. Another message from Vivian. Coming home late again. Don't wait up. He smiled slightly as he typed his response. Of course. Don't work too hard. The game was on, and they had no idea they were already losing. The private dining room at the Criterion buzzed with quiet conversation. Beatrice Sterling studied Elias across the table, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of the man her brother planned to destroy. Why should I trust you, Mr. Thorne? Bea asked, cutting straight to the point. For all I know, this could be one of Damian's tricks. Because Elias replied, sliding a folder across the table, I have something you've spent months trying to find. Bea opened the folder, her eyes widening slightly as she reviewed the documents. How did you get these? The same way you've been gathering evidence against your brother. The difference is, I have resources you don't. Arthur Finch, Bea nodded. You're tech expert. His reputation precedes him, as does yours. Elias leaned forward. You've been investigating Damian for months. Shell companies, offshore accounts, market manipulation. The same pattern he's using to try to destroy me. He's my brother. Bea's voice held no warmth. But he's also a criminal who thinks he's untouchable. I've watched him destroy too many lives. Then help me stop him. Bea studied the documents again. These trading patterns, they prove market manipulation. But it's not enough. We need more. That's just the beginning. Elias took out his phone, pulled up a series of transactions. Look at the timing. Every major dip in my company's stock coincides with large purchases through these shell corporations, all traced back to Damian. Bea finished. Clever. He's been planning this for months. Years. Elias corrected. Your brother's patient when he wants something. But patience works both ways. Their conversation was interrupted by a notification on Elias's phone. A message from Arthur. It's done. Check the markets. Elias opened his trading app. Damian Sterling's flagship company's stock had dropped 15% in the last hour. What did you do? B asked, watching his expression. Nothing that wasn't already there. Elias showed her his phone. Anonymous tip to financial regulators about irregular trading patterns. All completely legitimate concerns, backed by evidence your brother left behind. This will hurt him, be noted, but not enough. It's not meant to. This is just the first domino. Elias's voice remained calm. Your brother thinks he's the only one who knows how to play the long game. He's about to learn otherwise. Across town, Damian Sterling's office erupted in chaos. Phones rang incessantly as investors demanded explanations for the sudden stock drop. Find out who leaked this. Damian shouted at his assistant. Get our PR team on it now. Call the regulators. Tell them this is a malicious attack on our company. His phone buzzed Vivian. What's happening? Her voice held panic. The charity's major donors are pulling out. They're saying something about investigations. Handle it. Damian snapped. That's what I pay you for, isn't it? Pay me? You promised me security, a future. Now everything's falling apart. Keep your voice down, Damian hissed. Nothing's falling apart. This is a temporary setback. Where's your husband? Working. Acting like nothing's wrong. Like always. He's been different lately, distant. Good. Let him focus on saving his pathetic company. Soon he'll have nothing left anyway. After ending the call, Damian pulled up his private banking app. The numbers made his blood run cold. Someone had traced the shell companies. His carefully hidden transactions were being flagged for review. His office door opened. Rick Holden entered, his face ashen. We have a problem, Rick said. The regulators, they're asking questions about specific transactions. Transactions only we knew about. Impossible. Damian's fist clenched. Those records were buried. No one could. Someone did. Rick ran a hand through his hair. Damian, if they trace these back to us, they won't. Damian's voice turned cold. Because you're going to take care of it. You're the one who handled those transactions, remember? Rick's face paled further. You promised me protection. A partnership. And you'll have it. After you fix this. Damian stood. Unless you'd prefer the regulators focus their full attention on your role in all this? Back at the Criterion, Elias received another message from Arthur. Second phase ready. Waiting for your signal. Watch this, Elias told B, typing a single word. Execute. Minutes later, their phones lit up with notifications. Major financial news outlets were breaking stories about potential fraud investigations into Sterling Development and its subsidiaries. Anonymous sources, B. Read, claim evidence of systematic market manipulation and fraud. The SEC declined to comment on ongoing investigations. Your brother's not the only one who can play the media, Elias said quietly. Every journalist who received that tip has been carefully chosen. Each one has a history of exposing corporate fraud. Their reputations make the story credible. The damage to his reputation? B shook her head. This is more than just revenge, isn't it? This is justice. Elias's eyes met hers. Your brother didn't just try to steal my company. He tried to destroy everything I've built. Used my wife against me. Thought he could break me. A small smile crossed his face. Time to show him what real destruction looks like. I've spent years gathering evidence against him, B said. Watching, waiting, trying to find a way to stop him. And you've done more damage in one day than I managed in all that time. Because you were playing defense. Elias finished his drink. I'm playing offense. Your brother thinks he's winning. Thinks he has me cornered. Let him keep thinking that. Meanwhile, every move he makes to save himself will only dig him deeper. Their meeting was interrupted by another series of notifications. Damian Sterling's company stock had dropped another 10%. Trading was temporarily halted. That's just the beginning, Elias said, standing. By the time I'm done, your brother will understand exactly what it feels like to lose everything. And my role in this? B asked. Keep doing what you've been doing. Keep investigating. When the time comes, your evidence will be crucial. But for now, Elias smiled slightly. Just watch the show. As he left the restaurant, his phone buzzed again. Arthur had sent a video file, security footage from Damien's office showing his meltdown as his empire began to crumble. The game was entering its next phase, and Elias was just getting started. The emergency board meeting at Sterling Development stretched into its third hour. Damien Sterling paced behind his chair, his usual arrogant demeanor cracking under pressure as board members demanded explanations. These allegations are baseless, he insisted, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. A coordinated attack by our competitors. The SEC doesn't launch investigations over baseless allegations, Bernard Matthews, head of the audit committee, cut in. And these patterns, they're too specific, too detailed to be fabricated. Our stock has lost 30% of its value in 2 days, another board member added. Major clients are pulling out of deals. We need more than denials, Damien. Damien's phone buzzed, another message from Vivian. We need to talk. Now. He ignored it, focusing on the crisis at hand. Give me 48 hours. I'll have our legal team prepare a complete response. Legal team? Matthews scoffed. Half our outside counsel just withdrew representation, citing potential conflicts of interest. What aren't you telling us, Damien? Before he could respond, his assistant burst into the room. Sir, the FBI is in the lobby. They have a warrant. The boardroom erupted in chaos. Damien felt the control slipping away as board members rushed to distance themselves from the growing scandal. Meanwhile, across town, Vivian paced her charity office, watching donors disappear from her fundraising gala list one by one. Her phone rang a Rick. Have you seen the news? His voice was tense. Damien's setting me up to take the fall. He's trying to pin everything on me. Calm down, Vivian hissed. Someone's orchestrating this. These attacks are too coordinated, too precise. You don't understand. The transactions they're investigating, I handled those personally. If they trace them, listen to me, Vivian cut in. We need to be smart about this. Damien's desperate. He'll throw anyone under the bus to save himself, including you, Rick pointed out. Have you talked to Elias? He's been different lately, distant, but focused, like he knows something. Vivian's voice trailed off as a thought struck her. You don't think. Think what? Nothing. I need to go. She ended the call, pulling up her banking app. The charity's accounts showed multiple large transfers over the past year, all linked to Sterling Development subsidiaries. Her hands shook as she dialed her private banker. I need to move some money, she began, but the banker cut her off. I'm sorry, Mrs. Thorne, but all accounts associated with Sterling Development or its subsidiaries have been frozen pending federal investigation. Vivian's world spun. The lifestyle she betrayed Elias for was crumbling around her. She needed to act fast, secure what she could before. Her computer chimed. An email from an anonymous sender. Inside was a single video file, security footage of her meeting Rick in the parking garage, planning to betray both Elias and Damien. Another email arrived moments later, this one from the charity's board of directors. Subject, emergency board meeting, leadership concerns. As pressure mounted on the conspirators, Elias sat in his office, monitoring the chaos through Arthur's surveillance network. Multiple screens showed real-time updates. Sterling Development's stock price in free fall, news coverage of the fraud allegations, FBI agents entering Damien's building. They're scrambling, Arthur reported, eyes on his monitors. Damien's trying to transfer assets, but we've flagged every account. His lawyers are abandoning him. And Vivian. He pulled up another screen. The charity board just called an emergency meeting. Apparently, someone sent them proof of her financial misconduct. How's Rick handling the pressure? Elias asked. Exactly as expected. He's panicking, ready to turn on Damien to save himself. Arthur glanced at his friend. You knew this would happen, didn't you? That they'd turn on each other? People like them always do. Elias stood, walking to his window. They're opportunists, Arthur. The moment pressure is applied, loyalty means nothing. Watch. As if on cue, Arthur's surveillance feed showed Rick entering the FBI field office downtown. Looks like he's ready to make a deal, Arthur noted. Let him. Elias's voice held no emotion. Every piece of evidence he provides will only strengthen our position. Damien thinks he can pin everything on Rick? Let's see how that works when Rick gives them proof of Damien's direct involvement. And Vivian? She'll do what she always does, try to play the victim. But this time, Elias smiled slightly. This time there's too much evidence. The charity board, the donors, the media, they'll all see exactly who and what she really is. His phone buzzed. A message from B. FBI just left Damien's office. Boxes of documents. He's coming apart at the seams. Good, Elias replied. Stay clear of the blast radius. Your part comes later. Another alert. Sterling Development stock had been suspended from trading after dropping below critical thresholds. Should we move on the shares now? Arthur asked. Not yet. Let them fall further. When we move, I want to take control for pennies on the dollar. Elias checked his watch. How long until the charity board meeting? 20 minutes. Want to watch? No need. We already know how it ends. Elias turned back to his desk. Set up the next phase. It's time to turn up the heat. As evening fell, the city buzzed with news of Sterling Development's implosion. Financial reporters speculated about the scale of the fraud. Regulators promised thorough investigations, and investors rushed to distance themselves from the scandal. In his increasingly empty office, Damien Sterling watched his empire crumble. His phone had been ringing non-stop. Lawyers, investors, board members, all abandoning ship. Even Vivian hadn't answered his last 3 calls. A notification popped up on his computer. Unauthorized access detected in private servers. Before he could react, his screens filled with documents, years of fraudulent transactions, all now being uploaded to financial regulators and news outlets. His private line rang. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize. Who is this? He demanded. You should have done your homework. Elias's voice was cold, precise. Before you tried to destroy me, you should have asked yourself, what happens if I fail? Thorn. Damien's voice cracked. You? This is all you? No, Damien. This is all you. I'm just the architect of your downfall. Fitting, isn't it? The line went dead, leaving Damien alone in his crumbling empire, finally understanding the magnitude of his miscalculation. The morning headlines screamed scandal. Sterling Development CEO faces criminal investigation. Multimillion-dollar fraud scheme exposed. Corporate empire on brink of collapse. Damien Sterling sat in his home office, watching his life's work disintegrate. His phone rang. His primary banker. The board is calling in your personal loans. The banker's voice was apologetic but firm. Given the circumstances... Circumstances? Damien snapped. I've been with your bank for 20 years. My deposits alone are frozen by federal regulators. I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling, but we have to protect the bank's interests. After the call, Damien pulled up his portfolio. Every asset was toxic, every account frozen or called in. Even his emergency funds, carefully hidden in offshore accounts, had somehow been flagged and frozen. His security system chimed. Rick Holden was at the gate. Let him in, Damien commanded, already planning how to use Rick as a scapegoat. But when Rick entered, his expression stopped Damien cold. I made a deal, Rick announced without preamble. Full immunity in exchange for everything I know. And I know a lot, Damien. You treacherous. Save it. Rick's voice was steady. You were going to throw me under the bus. I just beat you to it. The feds have everything. The market manipulation, the bribes, the offshore accounts. All with your signatures, your authorizations. I'll destroy you, Damien threatened. But his voice lacked conviction. No, Rick smiled. You won't. Because right now, FBI agents are executing search warrants at every Sterling Development office. They're going to find the real books, Damien. The ones you kept in your private safe. The ones that show exactly who ordered what and when. How did they know about? Damien stopped, realization dawning. Elias. This is all Elias. Finally figured it out? Rick's smile widened. You know what your mistake was? You thought he was weak. Thought you could break him. Instead, Rick gestured at the news headlines. He broke you. Across town, Vivian faced her own reckoning. The charities board sat in stern judgment as evidence of her financial misconduct was laid bare. Mrs. Thorne, The board chair's voice was ice. These transactions, millions of dollars diverted through shell companies. Care to explain? I can't explain everything, Vivian began, but another board member cut her off. Save it for the authorities. The FBI is very interested in how our charity was used to launder money for sterling development. Vivian's carefully constructed world collapsed around her. Her phone buzzed incessantly, donors demanding explanations, society friends distancing themselves, reporters seeking comments. But one name was conspicuously absent from her call log: Damian Sterling. She tried his number again. Straight to voicemail. "This is your fault," she hissed into the phone. "You promised me protection. You promised me everything, and now—" Mrs. Thorne, her assistant, interrupted. "There's someone here to see you." Elias stood in the doorway of her office, his expression unreadable. The board members exchanged glances and quietly excused themselves. "You," Vivian's voice shook. "You did this." "No, Vivian." Elias's voice was calm, controlled. "You did this. You and Damien and Rick. I just exposed it. I don't know what you're talking about." "Please." Elias held up his phone, played the recording of her and Rick in the parking garage, planning their betrayals. "Let's not insult each other's intelligence. How long have you known?" "Long enough." He placed a folder on her desk. "Divorce papers. My lawyers have been quite thorough. Given the evidence of your financial misconduct, I don't think you'll want to contest anything." "You can't do this to me." Vivian's composure cracked. "I'll tell everyone what you did, how you orchestrated this whole thing." "With what proof?" Elias's smile was cold. "Besides, who would believe you? The faithless wife who helped her lover try to destroy her husband? The corrupt charity director who laundered money? Your credibility, like everything else you valued, is gone." Before she could respond, her computer chimed. Email after email arrived: resignations from her charity staff, cancellations from donors, inquiries from investigators. "You planned all of this," she realized. "Every detail. I learned from the best." Elias turned to leave. "You and Damien taught me the importance of patience, of careful planning. Consider it your parting gift to me." Meanwhile, Arthur monitored the chaos from his command center. Multiple screens showed the fallout: Sterling Development stock in freefall, news coverage of the scandal intensifying, federal agents at multiple locations. His phone rang. "Elias." "It's done," Arthur reported. "Every trap we set, they walked right into it. Damien's trying to access his emergency funds, but those accounts don't exist anymore," Elias finished. "Because the money is now in our control. Through perfectly legal transactions they themselves authorized." Rick's testimony to the FBI. "It's comprehensive. Between that and BA's evidence, Damien's finished." Elias's voice held satisfaction. "How's the stock acquisition proceeding? Through our shell companies? We're positioned to take controlling interest in Sterling Development for pennies on the dollar. Once the dust settles, everything he tried to steal from me, I'll own." Elias paused. "And Vivian's accounts?" "Frozen. All of them. Even her private accounts we weren't supposed to know about." The evidence of her involvement in the money laundering scheme was compelling. "Good. Initiate the final phase. It's time to end this." As evening fell, Damien Sterling sat in his rapidly emptying office, watching his empire crumble. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A video file. The footage showed Rick entering the FBI office, Vivian meeting with investigators, board members abandoning ship, and through it all, Elias Thorne, calmly orchestrating their destruction. Another message arrived. "You should have killed me when you had the chance. Instead, you tried to break me. Big mistake." Damien's hands shook as he poured himself a drink. Outside his office, he could hear federal agents combing through files, gathering evidence, dismantling his life's work piece by piece. His private line rang. "AB. Hello, brother." Her voice dripped with satisfaction. "Rough day?" "You," he snarled. "You helped him." "I helped Justice," she corrected. "All these years, watching you destroy people, thinking you were untouchable. How does it feel, Damien, being the one who's destroyed?" Before he could respond, his security system alerted him to multiple vehicles entering his property. Federal agents, their lights painting his walls in red and blue. "They're here for you, brother," B said softly. "And this time there's no escape." The final pieces of Elias's plan fell into place. Through his network of shell companies, he began acquiring Sterling Development's assets at fire sale prices. Every property, every project Damien had tried to steal from him would soon be his. In his office, Elias watched the endgame unfold. His phone buzzed with a message from Detective Ramirez. "Whatever you did, I can't prove it. But I know it was you." His response was simple. "Proof is everything, Detective. Without it, there's only speculation." The news channels ran constant coverage of Sterling Development's collapse, of Damien's arrest, of the charity scandal. But nowhere was Elias's name mentioned. He was, as always, the architect working behind the scenes, designing not buildings now, but the perfect destruction of those who had betrayed him. Was it worth it? Arthur asked, watching the coverage. Elias smiled, cold and satisfied. "They thought I was weak, helpless. Thought they could break me, destroy everything I built." He turned to his friend. "Now they understand. You don't attack a man unless you're prepared to destroy him completely. Otherwise, he might just destroy you instead." Detective Isabella Ramirez studied the evidence board in her office, connecting threads between photographs, financial records, and witness statements. Every line led back to one man, Elias Thorne. Yet nothing directly implicated him. Her phone buzzed. Another update from the Sterling Development investigation. 3 more board members had turned state's evidence, each revelation more damaging than the last. "Detective?" Officer Chun appeared at her door. "You need to see this." The newscast showed Damien Sterling being escorted from his office by federal agents. Behind him, Beatrice Sterling spoke to reporters. "The evidence of my brother's criminal activities is overwhelming." BEA's voice carried authority. "The systematic fraud, market manipulation, money laundering. All of it documented, all of it proven." Ramirez muted the TV. "Get me everything on Beatrice Sterling. Something about this feels too perfect, too orchestrated." "Already did." Chun handed her a file. "She's been investigating her brother for years. Everything checks out." "That's what bothers me." Ramirez turned back to her evidence board. "It all checks out. Every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every financial record. It's perfect. Too perfect." Her desk phone rang. The caller ID showed unknown. "Detective Ramirez." "Detective." Elias Thorne's voice was calm, measured. "I believe you've been looking for me, Mr. Thorne." "Interesting timing. I thought you might appreciate some clarity about recent events, such as how Sterling Development's empire collapsed exactly as your wife and her lover tried to destroy you. Coincidences can be remarkable things." She could hear his slight smile. "But you're not interested in coincidences, are you, Detective?" "I'm interested in justice, as am I, which is why I'm sending you a file. Evidence of other parties involved in Sterling's criminal enterprise. People who might otherwise escape notice." Her computer pinged with an incoming email. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because you're good at your job, Detective. You knew something wasn't right, even when you couldn't prove it. That deserves respect." "And what about what you did?" "What did I do, Detective? Present evidence of criminal activity to proper authorities? Cooperate with investigations? Help expose corruption?" His voice held a hint of amusement. "Everything I did was perfectly legal. You know that, or I'd be in custody already." Before she could respond, he ended the call. She opened the email, found detailed documentation of other executives and officials involved in Sterling's schemes. Everything meticulously documented, all of it admissible in court. Meanwhile, across town, Damien Sterling sat in an interrogation room, his expensive suit wrinkled, his arrogance shattered. Across from him, federal prosecutors laid out their case. "We have everything, Mr. Sterling," the lead prosecutor said. "Every transaction, every bribe, every manipulation. Your own board members are testifying against you." "I want my lawyer," Damien demanded. "Which one?" "They've all withdrawn representation. Conflict of interest, they say." The prosecutor smiled. "But we did receive an interesting call from your sister's legal team. They're willing to negotiate. If you're ready to cooperate fully, Damien's face paled. B. She was working with him all along. Him? Thorne. Elias Thorne. This is all his doing. He orchestrated everything. Mr. Thorne? The prosecutor consulted his notes. The architect whose company you tried to steal? The man whose wife you seduced as part of your takeover plan? That Mr. Thorne? You don't understand. He's behind all of this. With all due respect, Mr. Sterling, the only thing we understand is the evidence. And the evidence shows your crimes in remarkable detail. The prosecutor leaned forward. Now, about that cooperation agreement. In her charity office, Vivian faced her own reckoning. The board had called an emergency meeting, presenting evidence of her financial misconduct. Years of laundered money, misappropriated funds, all traced through Sterling Development shell companies. Mrs. Thorne, the board chair's voice was ice. The evidence is conclusive. The FBI is very interested in your role in all this. I can explain, Vivian began, but her phone buzzed with a message. From Elias. Check your email. She opened her inbox, found divorce papers attached. The terms were clear. She would walk away with nothing. A note accompanied the filing. You called me spineless. Called me weak. Now you understand. There's a difference between being spineless and choosing not to strike. I chose my moment. Choose yours carefully. Her hands shaking, Vivian looked up at the board. I'd like to cooperate fully with any investigation. Too late. The chair nodded to someone at the door. 2 FBI agents entered. Mrs. Thorne, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, and misappropriation of charitable funds. As the agents led her out, she caught a glimpse of Elias in the lobby. He watched, his expression impassive, as she was escorted past him. You destroyed me, she whispered. No, Vivian. You destroyed yourself. I simply showed everyone who you really are. In his command center, Arthur monitored the fallout. Multiple screens showed news coverage, stock tickers, arrest reports. Everything proceeding exactly as planned. His phone rang. Elias. It's done, Arthur reported. Sterling Development's board has approved the sale. Once the dust settles, our shell companies will own controlling interest. Damien's entire empire, bought for pennies on the dollar. And Rick? Singing like a bird to federal investigators. His immunity deal requires full cooperation. Between his testimony and BA's evidence, Damien won't see daylight for decades. Elias's voice held satisfaction. How's the market reacting? Our stock's up 30% since news of the scandal broke. Investors are practically begging to fund your new projects. The landmark building will proceed as planned. Under our complete control. Elias paused. And Vivian's accounts? Frozen. All of them. The evidence of her involvement in the charity fraud was compelling. Good. Time to close this chapter. The day ended with multiple arrests, countless headlines, and the complete destruction of everyone who had tried to destroy Elias Thorne. Yet nowhere was his name mentioned as anything but a victim of others' schemes. The perfect revenge, executed flawlessly, leaving no traces that could lead back to him. Mr. Harrison reviewed the final documents in his office, each page detailing another aspect of Damien Sterling's downfall. Across from him, Elias sat calmly, watching his longtime lawyer work. It's comprehensive, Harrison admitted. The SEC filing alone will prevent him from ever serving as an officer in any public company. The criminal charges. Well, they're discussing plea deals, but even the most lenient option means significant prison time. And the asset seizures? Total. Everything he owned, everything he controlled, all frozen or forfeited. The offshore accounts he thought were hidden? Seized. The properties he held through shell companies? Confiscated. Harrison looked up. He's finished, Elias. Completely and utterly finished. Good. Elias stood, walked to the window. And Vivian? The charity board is cooperating fully with prosecutors. The evidence of her involvement in the money laundering scheme is irrefutable. Combined with the divorce filing, Harrison shuffled some papers. She'll be lucky to avoid prison time. Make sure the prosecutors understand. No deals. She faces every charge, every consequence. Already done. Her reputation is destroyed. Even if she avoids jail, she'll never rebuild her social standing. Harrison paused. Are you sure about the divorce terms? You could demand everything. I don't want anything from her. Elias's voice was cold. Let her walk away with nothing. That's punishment enough. Knowing she betrayed everything she had for a future that no longer exists. A knock at the door interrupted them. Harrison's assistant entered with a news update. Vivian's arrest was making headlines, her perp walk captured by dozens of cameras. The media's having a field day, Harrison noted. Society darling revealed as fraudster. It's quite the fall from grace. She chose this path. Elias turned back from the window. She and Damien thought they could break me, destroy everything I built. Instead, he smiled slightly. Instead, they handed me the tools of their own destruction. Meanwhile, across the city, Detective Ramirez questioned Rick Holden. So let me understand, she said, reviewing her notes. You claim Mr. Thorne orchestrated this entire situation? Not exactly, Rick shifted uncomfortably. He just exposed what was already there. The fraud, the manipulation, that was all Damien. And Vivian, she was playing everyone, including me. But the timing? The way everything fell apart so perfectly? Look, Detective, Rick leaned forward. I knew Elias for years. Worked with him, thought I understood him. But I didn't. None of us did. We thought he was weak, vulnerable. Instead, he shook his head. Instead, he was 10 steps ahead the entire time. Yet I can't find a single illegal action on his part. That's because there aren't any. Everything he did was completely legal. He just arranged for the right information to reach the right people at the right time. And your immunity deal? I'll testify to everything. Damien's crimes, Vivian's involvement, all of it. Rick smiled bitterly. They thought they were so clever, using me against Elias. Never realized they were the ones being used. Back in his office, Elias reviewed the final phase of his plan with Arthur. Sterling Development's assets? He asked. Transfer complete, Arthur confirmed. Our shell companies now control everything. Once the legal proceedings end, we'll consolidate ownership under your new holding company. The Landmark project? Back on track. All permits cleared, funding secured. It'll be your crowning achievement. And the evidence? Buried so deep no one will ever find it. Every move you made was legal, documented, perfect. Arthur looked at his friend. You really did think of everything? They gave me time, Elias said quietly. All those months they spent thinking they were destroying me. I spent planning their destruction instead. His phone buzzed, another news alert. Damien Sterling had agreed to a plea deal, facing 20 years in federal prison. In exchange, he would testify against other conspirators, including Vivian. Predictable, Elias noted. He always was a coward at heart. And Vivian? Will face every charge, every consequence. No deals, no mercy. Elias's voice held no emotion. She chose her path. Now she'll walk it to the end. The day concluded with a final meeting, Elias and B. Sterling, in his office. The board approved the transfer, B reported. Once the legal proceedings end, Sterling Development will be completely under your control. And your role in all this? Exactly as agreed. I get my share of the company, clean and legal. Damien's criminal empire dismantled, justice served. She smiled. We both got what we wanted. Indeed. Elias stood, offered his hand. It's been a pleasure doing business with you, Miss Sterling. Likewise, Mr. Thorne. She turned to leave, then paused. You know, when we started this, I thought you were just another of Damien's victims. I was wrong. You're something else entirely. What's that? Someone who should never be underestimated. She held his gaze. They thought they could break you. Instead, you broke them. Completely, perfectly, and absolutely legally. After she left, Elias stood at his window, watching the city below. Everything had fallen into place. Every piece of his plan executed flawlessly. His enemies destroyed, his empire secure, his revenge complete. A notification lit up his phone. Detective Ramirez requesting a meeting. Time to tie up the final loose end, he murmured, sending his response. Tomorrow, my office, 10 a.m. The morning sun painted Elias's new office in golden light as he reviewed the final blueprints for his landmark building. The project that had almost been his downfall would now be his greatest triumph. A knock at his door, Detective Ramirez. Mr. Thorne. Detective. Please sit. He gestured to a chair. I assume you have questions. Just one. She sat, studied him carefully. Why did you send me that evidence about Sterling's other conspirators? Because you're good at your job. He met her gaze. You knew something wasn't right, even when you couldn't prove it. That deserves respect. And the fact that none of the evidence implicated you? Should it have? He smiled slightly. I'm a victim in all this, detective. My wife's infidelity, Damien's attempted takeover, the fraud at Sterling Development. I simply cooperated with the authorities. Very cooperatively. She leaned forward, almost as if you knew exactly what they needed to find. The truth has a way of coming out, detective. I just helped it along. And now? Sterling Development's yours. Your wife's facing prison. Damien's empire is destroyed. Everything they tried to take from you, you took from them instead. Justice works in mysterious ways. He stood, walked to his window. Was there anything else? She joined him at the window. You know I can't prove any of it. How you orchestrated their downfall, manipulated events, arranged everything perfectly. It's all circumstantial. Perhaps because there's nothing to prove. He turned to her. Sometimes, detective, the simplest explanation is the truth. They tried to destroy me. They failed. Everything else, well, that's just speculation, isn't it? She held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. Goodbye, Mr. Thorne. I doubt we'll meet again. Goodbye, detective. And thank you for your dedication to justice. After she left, Elias returned to his desk, opened a new folder. Inside lay the deed to a beachfront property, his new home, far from the city and its memories. Arthur entered, carrying final reports. Everything's settled, he confirmed. The landmark project is fully approved. Sterling Development's assets are completely under our control. Damien's in prison, Vivian's facing charges. Rick's testimony sealed their fates. And the future? Bright. Arthur smiled. Your company's stronger than ever. The new projects are revolutionary. You've not just recovered, you've transcended. Good. Elias stood. Time to move forward. The next morning found him standing on the deck of his new beach house, watching the sunrise over the ocean. Behind him, boxes waited to be unpacked. Before him, the endless horizon promised new beginnings. His phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Vivian's plea hearing was scheduled. She would face every charge, every consequence. No deals, no mercy. He deleted the alert without reading further. That chapter was closed. Inside, he found an envelope he'd prepared earlier. A note for Detective Ramirez. You were right about everything. But justice was served, wasn't it? The guilty were punished, the truth revealed. Sometimes the law needs help finding its way. Consider this my farewell. You'll never prove what really happened, but you'll always know. That's your reward for being the only one smart enough to see the truth. Eat. He sealed the envelope, arranged for its delivery, then turned to the ocean again. The past was settled, the future open. He had emerged from betrayal stronger, wiser, more capable. They had tried to break him, destroy him, reduce him to nothing. Instead, he had broken them, destroying their lives with the same precision they'd planned to use against him. Not with violence or illegal acts, but with patience, strategy, and perfect execution. The sun climbed higher, painting the water in brilliant colors. Elias Thorne stood at the edge of his new life, unbroken, unbowed, and undefeated. The landmark building would stand as his legacy, not just an architectural triumph, but a monument to his resilience. His phone rang. Mr. Harrison, the final paperwork is complete, his lawyer reported. The landmark project breaks ground next week. The press is calling it revolutionary. And the other matter? Vivian's legal team attempted one last deal. The prosecutors declined, as instructed. She'll face the full consequences of her actions. Good. Elias's voice held no emotion. And Damien? 20 years, minimum. His empire dismantled, his reputation destroyed. Everything he tried to take from you, you took from him instead. Justice has a certain poetry, doesn't it? Elias allowed himself a small smile. Thank you, Harrison, for everything. After ending the call, Elias walked through his new home. Each room represented a fresh start, unburdened by the past. His office overlooked the ocean, the perfect place to design his next masterpiece. Arthur had already set up his secure communication system. One message waited, from B. Sterling. The board approved your proposal unanimously. Sterling Development is now officially under your complete control. Damien's last appeal was denied. It's over. He typed a simple response. Thank you for your help. The future is ours to build. In his study, Elias opened his laptop, pulled up the designs for his landmark building. The project that had almost been his downfall would now crown his triumph. Every detail perfect, every element a statement of his vision. The doorbell rang. A courier delivered one final envelope, Detective Ramirez's response to his note. You're right. I'll never prove it, but I don't need to. Justice was served, even if not quite the way the law intended. You turned their own weapons against them. Greed, betrayal, arrogance. They never saw it coming. Goodbye, Mr. Thorne. I doubt our paths will cross again. Elias placed the note in his safe, alongside the evidence that would never see daylight. The perfect revenge, executed flawlessly, leaving no traces that could ever lead back to him. He returned to his deck, watching the waves. He had emerged from betrayal not just unbroken, but transformed. They had tried to destroy him, thinking him weak. Instead, he had shown them what true strength looked like, patient, calculating, unstoppable. The future stretched before him, bright with possibility. He had not just survived their betrayal, he had transcended it. His company was stronger than ever, his vision clearer, his legacy secured. They had called him spineless, weak, pathetic. They had tried to break him, destroy everything he'd built. Now they understood. There was a difference between being spineless and choosing when to strike. He had chosen his moment perfectly. Elias Thorne stood at the edge of his new beginning, a man who had faced destruction and emerged victorious. Not through violence or crude revenge, but through patience, strategy, and perfect execution. A man who could be respected, even liked, but should never, ever be betrayed. Behind him, his new home awaited. Before him, the endless horizon promised new achievements, new triumphs, new heights to reach. He was ready for whatever came next, knowing that he had proven himself not just an architect of buildings, but an architect of justice. From the ashes of betrayal, he had risen, stronger, wiser, more formidable than ever. The chapter was closed, the lesson taught. Never underestimate a quiet man. Never mistake patience for weakness. And never believe you can break someone who refuses to be broken. Epilogue. 5 years later. The Federal Correctional Facility's visiting room buzzed with quiet conversation as Damien Sterling, prisoner number 247891, sat across from his sister B. His once expensive suit replaced by prison orange, his arrogance eroded by years of confinement. The final appeal was denied. B informed him, her voice professional, detached. You'll serve the full 20 years. You helped him destroy me. Damien's voice cracked. Your own brother. You destroyed yourself. B placed a document on the table. The last of your hidden assets has been seized. That offshore account in the Caymans? The one you thought no one knew about? It's gone. How did he find it? He found everything, Damien. That was always your weakness. Believing you were smarter than everyone else. She stood to leave. Sterling Development posted record profits last quarter, by the way. Under its new name, Thorne Global. Wait, Damien called as she reached the door. The money I embezzled from father's estate. You never found that account, did you? B smiled coldly. We found it 3 years ago. The funds were returned to the estate. I used them to establish a foundation for victims of corporate fraud. Rather poetic, don't you think? Across the city, in a minimum security women's facility, Vivian Hayes, she'd reverted to her maiden name after the divorce, stared at the letter in her hands. Another parole denial. Continued lack of remorse, she read aloud in her cell. Failure to acknowledge the full extent of her crimes. 5 years of incarceration had dimmed her beauty, stripped away her sophisticated veneer. Her cellmate, a former hedge fund manager, looked up from her book. At least you only got 7 years. Could have been worse. Worse. Vivian laughed bitterly. I lost everything. My reputation, my social standing, all my friends. Even after I get out, I can never work in charity again. Never serve on a board. Never rebuild what I had. Should have thought of that before using a children's charity to launder money. Vivian turned away, remembering the day of her sentencing. Elias had been there, silent, observing, not gloating, not angry, just watching as justice was served. That had been worse than any rage or accusations. She pulled out a creased magazine article from beneath her pillow. Thorn Global revolutionizes urban development, the headline read. The photo showed Elias at the opening of his landmark building, now considered an architectural masterpiece. His new wife, a brilliant environmental engineer, stood beside him. Still obsessing over your ex? Her cellmate asked. He was supposed to be weak, Vivian whispered. An easy target. Instead, in his Ocean View mansion, Elias Thorn reviewed the latest proposals for Thorn Global's expansion into sustainable urban development. Arthur Finch, now his chief technology officer, sat across from him. The Dubai project is ahead of schedule, Arthur reported. And the London development just received full approval. And our old friend Rick? Still working as a junior analyst at that small firm in Nebraska. The terms of his immunity deal prevent him from ever working in major finance again. He tried to apply for a regional management position last month. Was rejected when his background check revealed his role in the Sterling scandal. Elias nodded, satisfied. Though Rick had helped bring down Damien and Vivian, betrayal still carried consequences. Detective Ramirez called. Arthur added. She's running for district attorney. Wants to know if you'll support her campaign. Anonymously, Elias decided. She earned that much. His phone buzzed. B. Sterling, now as vice president of strategic development. Just left Damien, she reported. He's broken. Completely and utterly broken. The last appeal failed, and he finally realized this is his life now. 20 years of watching everything he built belong to you. And the offshore accounts? All traced, all seized. The last one funded your new children's education initiative. Rather fitting, considering what they did with Vivian's charity. After ending the call, Elias walked to his private study. A wall of windows overlooked the ocean, but his attention was on a simple frame hanging beside his desk. Inside was a newspaper clipping from 5 years ago. Sterling Development CEO sentenced to 20 years. Beside it hung another. Former charity director pleads guilty to fraud. A knock at his door, his wife, Dr. Sarah Chinthorne, brilliant and genuine in ways Vivian never was. The foundation board meeting's in an hour, she reminded him. We're finalizing the grants for underprivileged architecture students. Elias smiled, taking her hand. They'd met 2 years after his divorce, when she consulted on the environmental systems for his landmark building. Her intelligence, integrity, and genuine passion for positive change had shown him what a real partnership could be. Did you see the latest reports? She asked. Your subsidized housing project is being called revolutionary, architecture that serves humanity while respecting the environment. In his private moments, Elias sometimes reflected on the journey. The betrayal that could have destroyed him had instead forged him into something stronger. Thorn Global hadn't just absorbed Sterling Development. It had transformed it, turned its resources toward genuine social good. His phone buzzed with a news alert. Former Sterling Development CFO found dead in prison. Damien's old associate, unable to face his reduced circumstances, had chosen a final escape. Mr. Thorne, his assistant's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Harrison is here with the documents for the new educational foundation. In the lobby, his longtime lawyer waited with a thick folder. Everything's in order. The foundation will provide full scholarships for talented students from underprivileged backgrounds. A genuine force for good, built from the ashes of Sterling's corruption. Life has a certain poetry, Elias mused. They tried to destroy me using corruption and greed. Instead, their resources now serve the public good. Later that evening, Elias hosted a charity gala in his seaside mansion. The city's elite gathered to support his new educational initiative. Among the guests was Detective, now candidate Ramirez. Quite a change from 5 years ago, she noted, joining him on the terrace. Justice takes many forms, he replied. Sometimes the most fitting punishment is to see your ill-gotten gains serve the greater good. I heard about Vivian's latest parole denial. Did you? His voice revealed nothing. The parole board mentioned letters from prominent community members, concerned about her lack of remorse, her failure to fully acknowledge her crimes. The board makes its own decisions. Ramirez smiled. Of course. Just like the prison board that denied Damien's transfer request to a minimum security facility, and the licensing committee that rejected Rick's applications for financial certifications. All their own decisions. Justice works in mysterious ways. Back inside, Sarah was announcing the Foundation's first round of scholarships. 10 brilliant young students from struggling backgrounds, given the chance to pursue their dreams. Elias watched his wife, thinking how different she was from Vivian. Where his ex-wife had used charity as a social weapon and money laundering tool, Sarah genuinely worked to improve the world. Her integrity and intelligence complemented his vision perfectly. His phone buzzed, another message from the prison. Vivian had attempted to apply for early release due to good behavior. Denied, unanimously. In his private study later that night, Elias reviewed a confidential report from his security team. They monitored all his former adversaries, ensuring they could never rebuild their power or threaten others again. Damien, 17 more years to serve. All appeals exhausted. Fortune gone. Reputation destroyed. Vivian, 4 more years minimum. No chance of early release. All social connections severed. Rick, stuck in minor financial jobs, barred from any significant role in the industry. A message from Arthur appeared. The last of Sterling's hidden technology patents has been transferred to us. His entire legacy now belongs to Thorn Global. Elias closed the report, satisfied. 5 years had transformed everything. His company had grown beyond his highest aspirations. His marriage to Sarah brought genuine partnership and joy. His philanthropic work actually helped people, unlike the corrupt charities his enemies had used for their schemes. They had tried to destroy him, thinking him weak. Instead, he had risen from their betrayal stronger than ever. Their resources now served his vision, their schemes had been turned to society's benefit, and their lives stood as eternal warnings. Never mistake patience for weakness, never assume quiet men are easy targets, and never, ever betray someone who knows how to wait for the perfect moment to strike. Looking out over the ocean, Elias Thorne allowed himself a small smile. Justice had been served, vengeance achieved, and a new legacy built. He had transcended their betrayal to become something greater. Not just an architect of buildings, but an architect of justice and positive change. That, Elias reflected, was the perfect revenge. Not just destroying your enemies, but using their own weapons to build something better than they could have imagined. Something that would stand as an eternal monument to their failure and his triumph. The waves crashed against the shore below his study, their rhythm a reminder of time's relentless march. Behind him, Sarah's voice drifted up from the gala, announcing another charitable initiative. Before him stretched the horizon, promising even greater achievements to come. He had not just survived betrayal, he had alchemized it into gold, transmuted their corruption into public good, turned their weapons against them, and emerged not just victorious, but transcendent. Elias Thorne stood at his window, master of all he surveyed, knowing that somewhere in their prison cells, Damien and Vivian were forced to watch as their stolen fortune funded scholarships, their secret accounts built homeless shelters, and their corrupted charity empire was transformed into genuine social good. That was true justice, not just punishment, but transformation. Not just revenge, but redemption. Not just victory, but transcendence. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.